Welcome, Qur'anics. I'm Qadi Tayyib, and welcome to Part 6 from the Islam of the Quran to the Islam of the Hadith. Imam Al-Shafi'i, the true founder of traditional Sunni Islam religion. And as we saw in the last segment, how Al-Shafi'i uh, stated his policy and conditions that one person must know and trust the person who's told it to him, and that person must know who's has must be known for his personality and must trust the person and know who it got it from, and so on, chain narration all the way up to the prophet, but nothing about logic. So now, even though there's one, even though the Shafi agrees and takes on one narrator, even though now he breaks his own rule, and now Shafi has a low requirement for hadith narrators. Now, even the person that breaks that rule, he will still accept them as long as he needs the hadith to protect him. So the truth is that the conditionality of a Shafi for accepting the narration are much less than the conditionalities of the Qur'anic text for accepting the testimony. The testimony, let's say for fornication in the Quran, is for witnesses. But the financial transaction, the will and divorce, and anything else, and by analogy with that, the retribution and the rest of the boundaries and the had punishment are two witnesses. So the Quran requires minimum of two witnesses, but a Shafi requires one. At a time when a Shafi does not accept the testimony of a single witness in God's boundaries, he declares the acceptance of the single report of narration and supports his statement by saying, hence this is his own rules, I accept the single hadith from a man and a woman, and I do not accept a single person in testimony. Page 373, 383. That means when it comes to the regular or the normal or the known punishments or boundaries for adultery and false testimony and all and theft, he accepts no less than two. But when it comes to his own personal creed or religion, shall we say, one is enough. That's all you need, and we'll see the difference between these two. Thus, it becomes clear that while Shafi'i insisted on explaining his hypothetical interlocutor's request with the principles of similarity and not analogy, because in similarity he can say anything he wants. It's similar to it. But analogy, he has to go by basis, which is because then if he goes by analogy, the Quran requires two, then a Shafi is required to have two witnesses, and therefore about three more than three quarters or five six of all his religion or his belief was just going down the drain. So if he had measured the narration on the testimony, he would have been obliged to not accept the hadith report of one unless it was narrated by at least two, compared to the legitimacy of the book of the God of God. So, like I said before, this case is that if it is accepted in the hadith with half this number for the man, because if God requires two minimum and a Shafi requires one only, that's for a man, or even half of this half for the woman, if we take into account that the testimony of a woman, they is half of a man as they translate it to be as they thought of it, because in that society, right from the get go, you can see that they always think about woman as being half a man. So if the Quran requires two and the man is only half what the Quran requires, then a woman is half of the half. So he reduces the standards way low. That's way below the belt. So, and because they all that because they translated the verse Al Baqarah 282 wrong, and plus it coincided with their mentalities that they don't want no competition for women. So if he accepts a testimony, for example, by any woman or any of the mother of the believers, let's say Aisha, the Prophet's wife, then it is traditionally considered the testimony of half a witness. Now compare to that to the book of God. Rather, what is greater and more dangerous than this, if it belittles the conditionality of testimony, for the example, the testimony of four witnesses for adultery and two in all other legal cases, its effectiveness is limited to two contracting parties, the plaintiff versus the defender. So basically, like we all know, if we go in a courtroom, we have a case, and the two parties, they had an argument, a fight, murder, stealing, whatever happened, whatever ruling happened, it's not gonna be it's not gonna be nationwide. It's just gonna affect those two parties. That's it. It's not gonna leave the courtroom, as it is in cases of adultery, divorce, and debts. So that judgment is gonna be just for these parties, and does not transcend them into others. On the other hand, a single report that reduces the quorum of the numerical conditionality to half for a man and a quarter for a woman, compared to the conditionalities of the book of God Almighty, and this single news is permissible and forbidden for the entire nation. In other words, one person could bring a hadith, just one person, and saying that it's based on trust, and I know who said it, and I know who's truthful. And this person said the hadith says that anyone who kisses his wife during the month of Ramadan, his consider his marriage null. That hadith, just simple itself, will be applied nationwide. That means anybody who kisses his wife, for example, or a wife kisses her husband during the month of Ramadan, their marriage will be nullified. Or if he says a hadith that if somebody eats with his left hand, he should not be talked to, he should be banned from the society, it will become nationwide. It was just a law automatically, just because one hadith affect everybody. So in other words, of a Shafi'i himself, page 458. And this is the great silence everybody about every analogy made by Al-Shafi'i between the narrator's narration and the testimony of the witness. So we see Shafi'i, when he's thinking that these laws are great. He's trying to show the effectiveness and the power of the Sunnah, so-called Sunnah, or the power of the Prophet, or the power of religion, that he wants it to be like communism. Rule applies over everybody. Everybody must be poor. Everybody must be work. Everybody treated the same. Just it's just nonsense. No one has a chance to express himself or think. They have to be told what to do on every aspect of life, and that's the part that Shafi was trying to do, and it's still working so far, but not for everybody. Everyone that comes to the West see a whole different. It breaks free, and I see a whole different. Has a chance to see a whole different view. So this is the end of part 6, and part 7 is coming up. I'm Khalid Tayyib from Qur'an Nation. Stick around, and we'll be back.